I want to introduce our moderator, who is Osprey Orielle. Osprey is the co-founder and executive director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network, and she's also the co-chair for the international advocacy with the Global Alliance for Rights of Nature. And Osprey will give us a historical perspective and context for our tribunal today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday morning. This is true solidarity to come out on this gorgeous day and be here together to have this wonderful tribunal and important deliberation. And thank you so much to our esteemed judges for being with us today. As Robin was saying, the tribunal has been hosted by the Bay Area Rights of Nature Alliance, and it's also part of the October Global Earth Rights Days of Action. And these days of action were birthed when many of us who are in this room were in Ecuador earlier this year in January. And we wanted to have this series of weeks where we could really express our commitment to our Mother Earth in many, many different actions around the world. So this tribunal is part of a whole series of actions that are going on at this time. When we were in Ecuador, we had the Rights of Nature Global Alliance Summit, where people from all over the world came to meet to talk about rights of nature. And during that time, we also held in Quito the first international Rights of Nature Ethics Tribunal. And this tribunal in the Bay Area is part of an ongoing tradition that we're really working to bring not only to the Bay Area, but all over the world. Some of you might know that in the Global South, there's actually an incredibly powerful history of tribunals. It's something that is practiced there, and we find it to be incredibly empowering for people, and we hope you will have that experience as well. I know for me, when I was in Quito, it was just so incredible to sit with hundreds of people and actually be in a formal court of law that we had created as we are today, and to actually see what it would be like to implement rights of nature and really speaking to power, if you will, against the violations against our mother planet, and to understand what does it look like, what does it feel like, and imagine if we were really to have the laws that we all know we really want, that really respect place, people, and planet. These tribunals are intended to examine and make formal observations on rights violations that have remained outside the consideration of formal government institutions. The cases that we actually started in Ecuador will continue to be reviewed in Lima, Peru this December, when they'll be having the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which happens every year. And we will be holding a 2-day tribunal there, which will be completing some of the cases that we started in Quito. I'm sure that this tribunal will be spoken about there as well. And we really want to make a statement in that particular space when governments from around the world will be addressing climate change and negotiating around climate change and looking at solutions. We want to have an input to that process to really show another way of moving forward with real solutions that really respect the natural laws of the earth. So we're really excited to be able to be in that space at the end of December. Today's tribunal is focusing on violations and the rights of nature and human rights violations by the fossil fuel industry and our larger governance systems. Today, we are highlighting the impacts locally on people and nature from the Chevron refinery and the big oil activities. And I think it's really important to understand that while we're doing this work, there's sort of the little and the big aspect of focusing in on particular issues in our local communities and changing those laws, while we're also understanding that we're putting the entire system, if you will, on trial. We are placing on trial our current legal and economic systems that legalize and monetize the destruction of nature. Basically, what we're saying is that given the multiple crises of our time, from climate chaos to environmental and social injustices, clearly our systems are not working. We're looking at structural change. Rights of Nature is a new yet ancient framework, as Penny beautifully said. It really draws upon indigenous knowledge of a time when people lived very much in harmony with the natural world, as many of our indigenous communities do, and which we can really learn from. And it's taking that ancient knowledge and putting it into a modern context, a modern system of law. In the rights of nature movement, we recognize that nature has inherent rights and is not merely property for humans to use, and this is at the core of it. We need to no longer see nature as property. In essence, we need to change our legal and cultural framework, as I said, at a structural level, at sort of at the DNA of our institutions, so that we live in respect for the laws of nature. Currently, our legal paradigms furthers the dangerous idea of the commodification and financialization of nature. And we can see the disastrous results of this way of thinking. I think the exciting part is that we're actually gaining momentum in this movement right now. At the national level, in 2008, Ecuador became the first country in the world to put rights of nature at a constitutional level and recognize rights of nature, which is incredible. And there are some problems there, and we don't really have time to go into that right now, but it is a huge move for the rights of nature movement that we see a country putting rights of nature into their constitution. Additionally, Bolivia has established 11 new rights of nature laws after hosting the World People's Conference on Climate Change and the Rights of Mother Earth in April 2010, which also produced the document that was referred to earlier by Penny, the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth. And we see this as a key document that serves as a constitutional model similar to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And when we think about it, we'd really like to see these two documents be hand in hand, where we're looking at the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Humans as well as nature. Also, there have been incredible successes of rights of nature ordinances in the United States at a local level, from Pittsburgh to Santa Monica. This work involves changing local laws to recognize that natural communities and ecosystems possess a fundamental right to exist and flourish, and the residents of those communities possess the legal authority to enforce those rights on the behalf of those ecosystems. Local rights of nature ordinances today are protecting communities from harmful practices such as shale gas drilling and fracking. And we think this is very important to understand, that this work also very much is at a community local level, putting the power back in the hands of people who live in communities to be able to practice and decide what happens to their environment, and have that power again to decide what happens in the places that they live. And so again, here we are focusing on the community here and what has happened with the refineries and the putting on trial, really, the larger system of the fossil fuel industry. So with that, we welcome you to this first tribunal here in the Bay Area, and also we really want your input. So during the day, if you have any questions or comments and want to make sure that we hear from you, or you want that woven into our afternoon session, please come find me at lunch, and we'll be glad to respond to your inputs. So with that, thank you all so much for coming, and I'm going to hand this back to our secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you.